I want to welcome my friend Paul Day, Dr. Paul Day. Oh my Lord, are you ever in for a treat? He's just such a gem and a gift and gentle. And just like my friend Agnes was gentle with us through talking about trauma, Dr. Paul is very gentle. And so I want to welcome you here, Dr. Paul Day.
Thank you, Connie. Can you hear me fine? Yeah, okay. It's been incredible to be sitting in on all these sessions with these incredible professionals, and I've been in awe as people have summarized careers in 15 minutes. How in the world do you do that? And to be honest with you, um, I've been through an editing process. My notes have been like the departure and arrivals board in an airport. They just keep shifting because people are sharing on this point and that point. And so I have a brand new, as of minutes ago, set of notes that I hope builds on, shares some thoughts that are helpful for everybody that's here. 23 years ago, I started my parenting journey, and I was in awe of the passion and love that flew out of me holding my daughter for the first time. And then months later, I was in awe at the frustration and anger that was inside of me that I had never experienced before. And I think and I really appreciate the no shame zone, or the free shame zone that you write about in your book, that really has been part of the setting and the culture of these sessions, because I think that's part of the reality in this, is figuring out what is that stuff, where's all this coming from. 21 years ago, we had our second foray into parenting, and that started with some unsettling news. After our first ultrasound, we were called back by the doctor, and we were informed that we may have a Down syndrome child. And then we ran for another set of tests, and there was confirmation that we had a Down syndrome child. And it took me to my knees. That was a kind of stress I had never experienced before. We're grateful that when we sat actually with a team of geneticists for our third meeting, they said, we have no explanation, but your baby seems to be fine. Make of that what you will. For us, that was a miracle. But there's sometimes we find ourselves in stories as parents we never signed up for. We never imagined it would come. And for some, that may be being a witness to your child's struggle in being bullied rather, social anxiety, performance pressure, in ways that, frankly, when I went to school many years ago, the kind of pressure that my kids live under at school, we never had. It wasn't like that. So it's different. And walking with our kids through these challenges. Now we find ourselves in a pandemic, and I appreciate so much of what so many of the presenters have shared about the challenges of parenting younger kids. Ours are young adults now, so we don't have that. We got university students. But there's something about finding yourself in a story you never imagined that can really deplete you, tax you. And I want to focus in on one element of so many areas that we could go into that really builds off the last two presenters. And that has to do with when we find ourselves in a story that reconnects us to our own unfinished, unresolved places inside that we haven't worked through. See, sometimes when we think about time, we usually think about time in this way, that if my past is behind me and my future is ahead of me and I'm in now, every step that I take in the direction of the future moves me further away from things that happened in the past. We think about it in terms of proximity. And secondly, that over time, whatever the effect of, whatever the impact of something that happened to me historically is, it will begin to fade. So if I just keep walking and this stuff keeps fading, at some point, I'm going to net out zero, like the impact's gone. But that would be to suggest this. Think about time like a train. So I'll be 55 this year. My train ride started 56 years ago. I always add the 9 months in the womb. I don't know why we start counting at birth, because really for me, it starts at the beginning. So 56 years ago, I started my journey. Now let's say that something significant happened to me as a child that even Agnes was sort of referencing to, maybe at age 8. So that's what, grade 3. I'm in grade 3 and I get bullied. And the idea that my past is back there would be to suggest, as I'm going through on my time train, that the 8-year-old me got off the train And then my train kept moving forward. So by the time I'm at 10, I'm 2 years away from the 8-year-old me. And with 2 years, the effects of that bullying should have started to fade. By the time I'm 20, I'm 12 years away now from the 8-year-old me. And 12 years of fading, it should be pretty much gone. But here's the truth. Nobody ever gets off the train. The 8-year-old you is right there. The 2-year-old you is right there. The 15-year-old you is right there. You can't go anywhere. That's not possible. In fact, the truth is none of us want to. That's called dementia or Alzheimer's, when you forget your past. That dementia and Alzheimer's is emotionally or psychologically is not the solution. The solution is to learn how to tend to those places that were never tended to, that have been left holding these emotions and pain. Think about it this way. Cup of water. When we experience something, when we're going through it, it's like the liquid. We can feel the emotions. It's maybe anger, or frustration, or pain, or whatever it is. Now we have a capacity, because our Creator's done this, to take this and put it in a freezer. Open a little door, stick this inside a freezer, so it slows down the molecules and it becomes a solid. Now that hasn't gotten rid of or hasn't dealt with anything, it's just preserved it. Because anytime we put something in a freezer, it's to preserve it. Now here's the thing that can happen. Something might happen in the current moment that triggers a connection back to this, and all of a sudden this cup gets brought up and you start thawing out. And it has nothing to do with now other than a relationship to it, but all this emotion and all these thoughts get brought forward. Now here's the thing, when that stuff gets unthawed, it's not, I'm 54 right now, I'll be 55 this year, but there's like an outside age. My outside age is 54 right now. But we have an inside age that sometimes rotates depending on what happens. So literally, I could feel like an 8-year-old inside a 54-year-old man's body because of a circumstance that's triggering a connection to something that brings it forward. Something in the background now gets brought forward. And if I haven't resolved that stuff, that can really complicate my capacity to deal with the current moment. In fact, some of the triggering can be that my children are at the same age I was when that event happened, and I see myself in them, or I see a reaction in them that's so similar to how I experienced it. And I'm actually trying to deal with the 8-year-old. I wish I had much more time to go into all of this, but my point in raising this, sometimes when we're feeling stressed or strained or activated, a simple question we can ask, how old do I feel right now? In this moment, how old do I feel? And then secondly, what did the 8-year-old me need that I did not get that I actually need right now? This slowing down the process, asking these kinds of questions can help us settle. Part of what we've heard today is that regulatory process that we need to do. And this is one of, in addition to all the great things you've heard, one more tool I want to posit to you about it. Now, here's a little strategy that I employ. I actually have glasses everywhere. I have 9 of them in my office. I have glasses in my car. I mean, not seeing eye glasses, these. I have them on my kitchen counter. I have them in my ensuite, have them everywhere. Because every time I see a glass, it reminds me of this. Again, imagine this is you, you're a container and you hold stuff. Every time I see a glass, I ask myself, am I holding on to things that I need to let go of? And what are they? Could be frustration, anger, disappointment, whatever it is. And I choose to let go. I actually fill a glass with water and I identify what those things are. And I pour it out and I let it go. That may mean forgiving some people, circumstances, whatever it might be, choosing to let those things go. Now, that just allows for an exchange to happen. That's not the end of the process. I actually need to get filled with certain things. Maybe I need peace. Maybe I need courage, hope, joy, perseverance, patience, whatever it is. And then I take a drink. Now, there's no magic in the water. But what this process is doing is connecting to something inside me that I can't grab hold of. It's intangible. It's allowing me through a visualization to connect to identify what I'm holding, and I'm choosing to let go of it. And then I'm choosing to have an exchange. Because the healing process, in a word, is exchange. I got to let go of things that I've been carrying so I can make room for what I need. See, the truth is, I could be holding on to fear and anxiety and pain, and I could desire to have hope and peace. I can't. My capacity is already taken up with this other. I have to let go of this first. I've got to let go of what I'm holding on to create room. So I encourage you, this is such a simple process. If you need to, and my wife and my kids, we do this. We stand at kitchen sinks. That's usually where we do it. In my office, I have a little sink outside my office. Before every session, I go to that sink, fill up a glass. I let go of whatever's concerning me, worrying me, let that go, and ask for what I need and go into the session. When I'm done the session, I go back to that sink, whatever the story I've heard, I let go of it, and I ask for what I need for the next. Here at home, if we're wrestling with things, we've been doing it during the pandemic, stuff builds up. Let's pour it out together, kids. Let's pour it out together, Linda. Let's just let this stuff go. What do we need? Practice the exchange. So I hope this gives you a simple, practical tool in the midst of this story we find ourselves in.
Oh, Dr. Paul, that was unbelievable. And you know what I really love is that it's the simple things like this that that we need right now. We don't need complicated. We need simple. And I don't know if you're on the chat, but there's many people who are saying thank you. This was really needed. And I just want to thank you. Dr. Paul and I, and a couple, Dr. Wayne and a couple of others of us, we are going to be doing the Brave Parents Conference in person when we're allowed to again. And and so Dr. Paul will be leading us more into a lot of this real hands-on, taking trauma and being able to release it. There's just some things that you can't do online, and so we're going to reserve that for in person. So if you're interested, um, it's actually still up on Eventbrite because we haven't given up hope. Going to happen. Dr. Paul, someone's asking how they can follow you. What's the best way to reach you?
Well, I don't have like a web presence like many of your other, the cohort that's been on today who are amazing. And I would just say go in their direction, like they're awesome. I just run a clinical practice and then I have consulting and different things I do, but I'm maybe a little behind in the utilization of technology. I'm thinking about it, but as of now, I can't actually give you something to follow. My website is just drpaulday.com. It's more of a sort of a business card. It's not dynamic like a lot of the others, but hopefully that's what I got for you. So.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great start. You keep it simple. You keep it back to basics. So that's wonderful.